Boy, Bob
Now
Myers says, I'm done.
we this isn't surprising. Like we've been reporting at the Athletic for a while that it was trending
Yeah.
this direction,
Yeah.
but it's still jarring when it
Yeah.
actually happens, right?
Right.
When he tells Woj like it's just time. Uh, the reason it's so significant is because like outside of Stephen Curry and Joe Lacob who bought the team, Bob Myers was the first piece to build this, right? This was
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah.
He was they got rid of Don Nelson
Right.
and hired Keith Smart, and they hired Larry Riley to
Yeah.
be the GM, but he was basically just there to train his new assistant GM,
Bob
Bob
Myers.
Myers, who would be taking over. So,
Right.
2012, he takes over. So, like, this is like a major piece out of the puzzle. Like, this is a huge, major point that really feels like, okay, this feels like the beginning of the end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This feels like, okay, it won't be the same now because this significant pillar of this is now just like, yo, I'm out. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
deuces.
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So it always seems like I always believe this. Every dynasty, things look a lot calmer on the outside than they actually are on the inside because it's just this maelstrom of ego and just people at creative people who all are, and I don't mean egotistical in the sense that they're selfish, but they have a right to think what they think about whatever it is you're talking about. Like they've earned that right. So you've got Draymond, you got Clay, you got Steph, you got Steve Kerr, all winners. Like they've won everywhere, like big winners, and they all have ideas. And you have Joe Lacob, who literally said we're the smartest team in the league. Nobody's smarter than us. And you have all of these forces, and at the center of all of that was Bob, keeping all of that shit together somehow and pointing in the same direction. And to your point, I don't know how it functions without him at the center, Marcus.
I mean, and we don't know. And one of the important elements too, and probably one of the reasons he's gone is like he was the guy that dealt with Joe Lacob.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not like Joe and five other people who, right? When
Right.
Joe, who is like, I mean, all in,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like fully all in. When it's 3 a.m.
Right.
and he's like, why don't we go get this guy? Right? No matter how, like, whatever it is, right? That's that's
Yeah.
that's Bob Myers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Bob
When
takes the call.
yeah, Bob's taking the call.
Yeah.
Bob's, when the entire like front office or the scouts is leaning one way and Joe Lacob is leaning another way, like Bob's the one to manage that, right? When
Yeah.
Steph, wants this money, and and Joe's like trying to like not give him that much, like,
Right.
and the feelings and the egos and all that stuff that gets in the middle, like all that has always been Bob and only Bob.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. It's only Bob. Like
Yeah.
he was the lone go between for all these other elements and the owner.
Yeah.
And how do you replace that? I mean, that's a decade of built. Like you're not walking in replacing that.
Right.
And if it's Mike Dunleavy, he doesn't have the rapport with these players, right?
He
You
ain't
don't know
been
what
through it with
adversity.
him.
He
He
ain't
ain't
been
been
through it
through
with
it.
them. Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't raised with them. And
Yeah.
if it's Kirk Lacob, right? Like he don't have that with him either because
Right.
he's like, yo, man, you the son of the
Joe's
king.
son.
Yeah, like
You know what I'm saying?
got to deal with that issue. Even though I think Kirk is actually legit,
Yeah, I do
yeah,
too.
shake
But
that, right?
it's hard. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know how they do that. I don't know how they, number one, put somebody in that seat that Joe's like, all right, this is my guy. Like you are the one who has to deal with me, and also you're the one who has to deal with Draymond. Like, who's that guy? Maybe Nikias is that guy. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Maybe.
Maybe Nikias is that guy. Maybe Nikias, you're the one
You
who can
stepping
handle
in.
this. I just hired you as the general manager of the Golden State Warriors.
Gonna be honest with you, Chief. I don't know if I had the capabilities for that one, but I do appreciate the faith. We'll get there one day.
I'm just saying for the $8 million, you probably figured out, right?
I try my best.
Do you give it your best effort? Man, it's crazy. Like I just like it could, I'm not saying it couldn't still work, but it's going to be really hard.
Here's the question, DA. Like, and Nakai, it's like, how does this shake up the league?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, I know they might have some in place already, but where Bob's go, like, do they get a few calls? Like, hey, hold on.
Yeah.
I
right.
Like it. Right. And also, does he end up somewhere else? Clippers. Right. Like, so the ramifications could be league wide. I wonder how this shakes out for the rest of the league.
Yeah. That was going to be my question. Honestly, like, do we know that Bob is just gone, or is he just leaving the Warriors? Because I think those are two very different things. Yeah. If we see someone else, like you mentioned the Clippers, you see someone else step down elsewhere and it's like, well, yeah, I can build this contender here.
Right.
Like,
right.
I wonder what catches his eye. I would imagine he's going to be very highly pursued if it's not this offseason, if he takes a year or two break or whatever and does something else. Whenever he puts his hat back in the ring, he's going to become, if not the most pursued executive out there, he's going to be one of the two or three. So no question. I'm curious to see how long he stays away.
Well, Marcus, we talked about this before. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Bob is the new president of the Clippers or the new president of the Special Olympics. You know what I'm saying? Like, he could go in any direction. Like, like
special consultant to Barack Obama.
You know what I'm saying? Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Or like sit next to Perk or NBA Countdown. Like, either way.
He could do anything. Like, he's a really bright guy and has that kind of, worldly perspective on shit, so he could wind up anywhere doing anything, and it wouldn't surprise me. Like, if he wanted to run for Dianne Feinstein's seat, that wouldn't surprise me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that wouldn't shock me. So
is the pod still going?
That's a good question. Is he still doing the pod?
Yeah, was that just like a leverage play, or was that a real thing?
That's Bob Myers on camp. Right. I totally forgot about that. That's right. I thought that was one of those, oh, you want to hit people with garbage cans moment, right? Like, where he's like, oh, you want to pay my money? Okay, all right. Exactly, man. Well, man, that's gonna be fascinating to see where Bob winds up and what he winds up doing. But they're different now. It's different now. It's a different organization now going forward. And I think there was already blood in the water just because they're old now, but now there's really blood in the water. And I wonder what this does. Draymond's got options. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got options now. And I just wonder what this does with him and his thinking about what he wants to do going forward.
That's going to be, that's, I'm very interested by how this shakes out. And the number one thing I'm very curious about is what number 30 has to say about it.
Right.
And what number 23 has to say about it. And what number 11 has to say about it. Because they've got some real serious contracts to deal with. They've got some holes they need to fill. But Nikias, there is this other school of thought too. Like, maybe it's time for some fresh blood, right? Maybe it's time to inject, like, the way you keep this going is putting in a new perspective or a new level of thought. Do you think that's valid, or that's kind of like not how this works?
No, like, I think there's validity to it. And I think we are reaching, especially this offseason with the contract decisions, it feels like the Warriors are really reaching this inflection point of the dynasty now, where it's like, okay, how much longer can Steph do this? And not just do this because we know what kind of talent he is, but how much longer can he do this for 70 plus games and then whatever you do in the postseason? What does this new version of Klay Thompson look like? Who's fully healthy, but he's still very much not like 2016 Klay Thompson. Do we see any kind of reinvention with Draymond Green? And that's beyond how the locker room dynamics changed this year. You have a better handle on that than I would for obvious reasons, but everything that goes into that. If the Warriors were going to pivot, like, this feels like the offseason to do so. Not necessarily saying blow it up, trade stuff or anything like that. But if you are going to go for the new life up top, if you want to reconfigure anything with the core like this, and especially I think what Jordan Poole's contract that fully kicks in this offseason now, like this feels like the time to make some kind of core shift if you're going to do it. Just do it all at one time.
It certainly feels to me like if Marcus, if they're going to do something, it's got to be Poole, right? Like that's the chip they have. That's the card they have to play. Now I don't know what they can get.
Kuminga.
You think that Kaminga's a better chip just because of the contract or because of his play?
Well, I think that, I think he's still on his rookie deal. It's
Yeah,
not a big number. Size, wing matters. I think Poole's a little bit tougher after the season he had, and now that number shoots up. It was fine when it was like 3.9, but 28 is a little bit different, right? It's a little bit different. But also, like, I mean, I get it, but I mean, it's really tough. You gotta know what you're getting, and to sell low on a player who helps you win a championship, who has some of those like talents that sell, that fill the crowd, right? Like you could see him as like a Steph Curry light. I think that's gonna be tough for them to walk away because they've seen it too much.
Get it
right? Like they've watched it, so I think it'll be a little bit tougher. I don't think it's not impossible. I think it might even be probable in some senses, but if they pull the trigger, they're gonna feel really good about what they pull the trigger on. It won't be a question mark for a question mark, right? Like, and that's where to me, now you got to throw in the Kuminga, right? You got to start throwing in the pick because Poole alone, like, what does Jordan Poole get you by himself?
By himself,
that makes you be like, we own, let's go. We just upgraded. You're probably better off hoping he just improves.
Yeah, and run it back for a year and see, and then you can always trade him the next year. That's true. That's true. Well,
who he reminds me of, DA?
Who's that?
Tyler Hero.
That's a good count.
Same, right?
Yeah. No, that's a very good
count. Milwaukee dudes got about the same money, right?
Right.
But he, this is, Hero's supposed to be coming back, game 3? He's targeting game 3 in the finals. Like that's, I mean, you see these dudes play on this level, Nakai. It's like, it's tough.
Yeah.
To walk, like Jaylen Brown is down now, right? Like everybody's down on Jaylen Brown, but like, come on, man. We've seen him produce at the big level.
Right. He's been in the finals and played well.
Yeah.
I was about to say, like with Jordan Poole, like it just feels like we trade Jordan Poole for 2 pieces that help.
Yeah.
And you may wind up feeling good about that for a year or 2, but then you look at if Jordan Poole improves, which he should because of how young he is and just the path that he's been on throughout his career, you may be looking back at that trade 3 or 4 years from now, like, we probably should have been a little bit more patient, especially if the trade doesn't help Golden State get another ring. If it's just we made the conference finals next year, second round the year after that, and now we're reconfiguring again, and Jordan Poole has become a 27 point per game guy somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, well, we took our shot. It made sense, but now we are reeling a little bit. So,
well, the only reason you do it is to bring someone in to get you another chip. I mean, help you get another chip, right? I mean, that's all they're about now, which they should be, by the way, that given their pedigree. So yeah, it will make it tougher, no doubt. But I would like, to me, you can't, if you're Golden State, like, you just riding the Steph train until all the wheels fall off, right? Like there's no counter to that. There's no shifting. Like, well, now we're going to be, I don't know, we're going to be Karl Anthony Towns' team. There's just no, it's not going to, they can't, you know what I mean? Like there's no move. There's no guy out there that's going to replace what Steph Curry's done for that franchise.